Welcome to the Rudolph Grotto Gardens and Wonder Cave. Born on an Iowa farm in 1882, Philip Wagner traveled as a young man to Austria to train for the priesthood. He fell ill while in France, and on a visit to Lourdes in 1912, he vowed to someday build a shrine to the Virgin Mary, should his good health be restored. 4 years later, a healthy Father Wagner toured Europe with colleagues, collecting ideas for a future grotto before his return to the United States. In 1917, he was appointed teacher and new pastor of St. Philomena's Catholic Church in Rudolph, Wisconsin. 11 years later, after establishing the parish school, Wagner began his promised shrine on grounds that would eventually include a new church, rectory, convent, and school. The shrine he envisioned would exist in harmony with the beauty of the natural world. Wagner wrote in his 1958 autobiography that he loved the free and open life in the great outdoors, with the birds and the beasts and the fishes, roaming through fields and forests, and along green countrysides and rivers, hunting and fishing, and looking for rocks. All this was the life for me. Over a period of 3 decades, he landscaped a romantic labyrinth of small hills, rocky enclosures, and gardens on the parish grounds. Wagner began his project by planting trees and flower beds and building various structures with the soft reddish gossan rock found in this area. He hauled heavy stones from nearby farm fields and woods with the help of his students and others in the community. In the winter, rocks and huge logs were skidded over the frozen terrain with help from a farmer's team of horses or a tractor and chain. For 30 years, Wagner was assisted by Edmund Rybicki, who started working with him as a 4th grader attending the Catholic school. Rybicki continued to work on the grotto after Wagner's death in 1959. Rybicki and Wagner set out hundreds of flowers and potted plants each spring as the grotto grew into a celebration of nature, faith, and art. As you enter these gardens, you will see a number of small buildings and monuments, including one representing the 10 Commandments. This is made of stone and glass mosaic, surrounded by shells and flowers. You will notice that the embellished monuments throughout the grounds are integrated with natural elements such as boulders, tree roots, or ferns to unite the concepts of the man-made, the spiritual, and the natural worlds. The grotto complex was intended as a shared haven for birds and woodland creatures, and people as a place of worship and contemplation. Toward the southern end of the Rudolph Grotto is a small stone church. Looking through the colored glass windows of the church, you will see a miniature altar, chalice, paten, missal stand, flower vases, crucifix, and ciborium. There is a small log cabin nearby, representing Wisconsin in miniature, which was constructed by a parishioner. Once a playhouse for children, it is modeled after a typical Swiss alpine building. Peek in to see a tiny village and highways, a dairy barn, trucks carrying milk cans to a cheese factory, a church and shrine, and soldiers on maneuvers at Camp McCoy. The small log huts, barn, and telephone poles were made by the Boy Scouts of Milwaukee. These items were on exhibition at the State Fair before they were arranged in this building. The larger log structure here is a museum of grotto memorabilia. Inside, you can learn about the history of this site and how each area was built. There are also displays of photos and vintage postcards portraying the grotto decades ago. Nearby, a shrine is dedicated to St. Philomena, patroness of the parish. The statue of the saint in Carrara marble was dressed in colorful paint by Edmund Rybicki. At 11 years old, Philomena pledged a perpetual vow of chastity and consecrated herself to God. Her commitment to God caused her to refuse the Greek Emperor Diocletian her hand in marriage, and was subsequently tortured for her refusal. God's angel saved her when the enraged emperor tried to drown her with an anchor around her feet, and they healed her wounds after she was shot through with arrows. When Diocletian finally had her brutally killed, Philomena was recognized as a martyr for her God, and was recognized by her saintly attributes of an anchor and arrows. Close to this leafy area, you will see the grotto planter and sign, built in 1933. Inlaid with gold and green tiles, its monogram reads OAMDG, signifying the Latin Omnia ad majorem Dei gloriam, all for the greater glory of God. Father Wagner ordered barrels of green, white, blue, red, and yellow glass from the Kokomo Opalescent Glass Company in Kokomo, Indiana. Like Father Werner Roos at the Dickeyville Grotto, Wagner melted glass into lumps in oyster pails from local markets and then shattered the glass into tiny pieces. Father Wagner decorated stonework structures like this throughout the park, using the glass fragments for mosaics along with shells and other colorful materials. A stone and concrete bridge over the sunken garden leads to the War Memorial and Annunciation of Mary plaque, with a statue of victory dedicated to those who died in the Second World War. The monument is encircled by a plaza profuse with flowers in summer. Making your way toward the Wonder Cave, you will pass the Wayside Crucifix, a shrine with a wood carving from Switzerland, and also the Lourdes Shrine, the first monument Father Wagner built at Rudolph. This shrine is dedicated to Our Lady of Lourdes, to honor the promise Wagner made in 1912. Developing his technique with mortar and stone as he went, Wagner spent 3 years lovingly crafting this shrine of gratitude. The Soldiers' Memorial Monument has much in common with monuments at the Dickeyville and Wagner grottos, although it is unknown whether Father Wagner ever visited either site. Entrance to the Wonder Cave has always required a small fee to help maintain the grotto. Constructed between 1935 and 1957, the cave gives an impression of great size due to the lengthy twists and turns of its interior passageway. In 1958, Father Wagner described details of the journey through the cave this way: "The art which the sightseer witnesses along the winding passage is priceless and beautiful, made in Italy from Carrara marble, according to specifications. The illuminations inside come from countless electric bulbs. The way of heaven is represented in miniature by scores of ruby lights. It is the winding and rugged pathway of faith, the commandments, the sacraments, prayer, virtues, good works. It gives evidence of how difficult the way to heaven really is, meandering amid trials and tribulations and sacrifices." Following the 14 Stations of the Cross, you will pass by a popular picnic area made for sightseers by Father Wagner. Walk about a quarter of a mile northward, beyond the picnic benches and shelters, if you would like to see a memorial to Father Wagner. As you pass by the Stations of the Cross, you will eventually come upon a smaller rock shrine, that of St. Teresa. This small grotto houses the statue of the saint, set within an elaborate folk art frame. In 1961, St. Philomena's Church was renamed St. Philip's in honor of Father Philip Wagner. Take another look inside the Grotto Museum for more information about the history of this site. As you wander back through the grounds of the Grotto Shrine, you will encounter natural and man-made monuments that shaped the life of Father Wagner. Self-described as a joyful, happy laborer,